Here is a 2016 Avalon that the guy got a phenomenal deal on. It was only 16,000 miles. He paid $19,000 for it because he had a neighbor that had it sitting in the garage. A single guy with 3 vehicles. He didn't want this anymore. He didn't like it because the scowling mouth. I don't particularly like it either, but it's no reason to get rid of a perfectly good car. Now, the original Avalons were made in Japan. Then they started making them in Kentucky. This particular one was made in Kentucky. I had a Camry station wagon made in Kentucky. It was a great car. Nothing wrong with these cars. They got a nice V6 engine. It's just that everyone wants SUVs, and in the end, they were only selling small amounts of the Avalons in the United States. So Toyota was still making Toyota Crowns in Toyota. Now they're selling Toyota Crowns made in Japan, which is a replacement for this, which is basically the same kind of exact car, because the Crowns are selling over here now. They're hybrids, just like the Camrys, and that was kind of the problem with the Avalon. Camrys were good cars, so were the Avalons. But the Avalons cost a whole bunch more, and they're basically fancy Camrys, just like the Crown is a fancy Avalon. Now, you can get a Camry today. A guy brought me a brand new one a few weeks ago. He paid 31 grand. It gets 51 miles a gallon. He bought it here in Clarksville. But if you want to buy the Crown, they go anywhere from 15,000 more than that to 25,000 more, and they're both hybrids. I mean, to me, it's kind of a crazy thing. They're not going to sell that many of them. Toyota just figured, hey, we're making these Crowns in Japan. Why don't we import them to the United States and see how they go? There's a certain amount of people that will pay all that extra money to get the Crown name on it instead of the Camry name. This particular one was probably one of the best ones ever made, even though it was made in Kentucky. Toyota's infinitely reliable V6 engine. Modern engines, got timing chain, not a timing belt. These things can run and run and run. It's got the torque of a V6, so it's an extremely smooth car. Now, there was nothing wrong with 4-cylinder versions in the Camrys or in these and some of the early ones. You could get a 4-cylinder engine. They don't have the torque though that these engines have. These have smooth riding, and they're pretty luxurious for the size of car that they are. And if he drives on the highway at highway speeds, 32 miles a gallon, nothing to sneeze at. But of course, like I said, the new ones are all hybrid, and they can get 50 something on the highway. So they do get a lot better gas mileage, but with some extremely complex technology that I doubt as if those things are going to be running 300,000-400,000 miles, 20-30 years without some serious money spent. I've seen these things with no money spent other than oil changes, and they'll go 300,000 miles. So you kind of get to pick and choose. Although today you don't get to pick and choose because they don't sell the V6 in them anymore. If you like this kind of power and you could find one like this that's only got 16,000 miles on it, hey, my advice is snap it up. Even if you don't love the car, you can sell it to somebody else when you're tired of it, because there's always people that want a smooth sedan with a nice V6 that gets decent gas mileage with a very dependable transmission that they don't have to do anything except change the oil, which is all he's done in the time he's owned it. Now as we go inside, you can see very nice interiors. Yeah, their interiors are a lot nicer than the Camrys are, for sure. Slam the door, solid door. I rented a car just like this for my son's wedding. So, hey, they're nice cars. The black and chrome trim is great. And you can see, you know, you can play around in these because fortunately this has a no-key system. I'm not a big fan, but they're all going that way. You can drive it either as an automatic, which most people do, or you can put it into manual mode where you can shift it up or down yourself. You can see, you can go through all 6 speeds here, or if you really want to have fun, hey, you can do paddle shifting. Ooh, look at that. Paddle shifter up, paddle shifter down. But most people just put them in drive and drive them. Heated seats. You can go eco, normal, or sport mode. If you want to get better gas mileage, you want to drive it normal, or you want to go a little zippy, get a little bit worse gas mileage, all at the push of a button. Dual climate control for each side. And hilariously enough, it's still got a CD player in it, but it has XM satellite too. Oh, it doesn't have a sunroof, which strangely enough is the reason the original guy bought the car. He hated sunroofs, so he bought this But then he decided he hated the front grille and he got rid of it. Bought himself a Subaru Outback. I think he's a fool. This is 10 times the car of a Subaru Outback. Now we check out the back seat if we unlock the door. In we go. Luxurious back seat. Look at the room. I'm no tiny town. Front seat's back. There's still lots of room. You got nice heating controls here. You can have people sit in the middle. Oh, they got a really nice armrest. And of course, if you want to get in the trunk, you can get in the trunk. Hello in there. It's really a very comfortable car to carry people around in. Of course, it's got a nice trunk too. The trunk doesn't want to open. All right. Well, the trunk works fine. I guess the remote needs a new battery. As you can see, they've been to Rural King. You got a lot of room in this trunk. That's one of the big things about this. You can carry a ton, and you can flip the seats down if you want to slide even more stuff, like a big screen TV. But of course, nobody really does that anymore since Amazon took over and they bring it to your house and set it up in it so you don't have to even touch the stupid thing. Now, we'll get the big old scan tool out. It already read it. That was fast. See, it's going to do a full topology scan. So while it's doing it, we'll look around again. It's a really nice setup. Clean. Like the new ones, I don't know what Toyota was thinking, but they got those horrible, ugly screens that cover up here. It's like somebody glued it on. This obviously was designed in one piece. Now it's got 2 trouble codes, so we'll just see what little things are wrong. One of them is the GPS, which this doesn't have a GPS, so we don't even care. Hey, look, everybody's got phones. The Google stuff works so much better. Why would you want to use a system that a company has that you got to update it and all that stuff? Truthfully, I don't even know why they put that crap on cars these days. Well, the code is voice recognition microphone disconnected, so the whole thing's not connected. We don't care. We'll see what it says for the ECM. And it's exactly what I thought it would be. Startability fault. I get it with these remote starters. Sometimes they don't start and they trip that code. It is the original battery, so it's 9 years old. I would say it's probably time to change the battery at some time in the future. They live in the South, so it doesn't get that cold. And I mean, the other day I checked my daughter-in-law's Tacoma's battery and it was really old. I said, look, you only got 30% left. It's time to change it. But it started the car, she said. I said, well, it's not going to start the car when it gets really cold. So, check it every once in a while. It gets slow, just replace the battery. We'll erase that stupid code. Now we'll start her up. Take a look at live data. There'll be a lot of it. Remember, black is good, red is bad. The mass airflow sensor's good. Then the closed loop like it's supposed to be. Even tells you it's using gasoline at the moment. And here we have the oxygen sensor. One is perfect. You can see it's going between 0.998, 996, 1.02. Occasionally it's perfect, and sometimes it's off 2 1,000ths of a percent or 3 1,000ths of a percent. You can see it's idling like a dream. So I know it's running perfectly. Well, I kind of figured that. If he's getting 32 miles a gallon on a highway, that's what these things get when they're running correctly. You can see the catalytic temperatures following itself perfectly. And we'll look at the rest. Everything's looking good. The variable valve timing's good. My car says a lot of information, but all of it's good. Like I say, a lot of information. Whee! 3 days later. Okay. A little road trap. Camera's smaller, but you can see what you're looking at. Really smooth. I do have to say, I can see why some people buy these because they are more luxurious than the Camry. I don't know personally if I would spend the extra money, but this guy didn't. He bought it for $19,000 with only 16,000 miles on it. Now that is one heck of a deal. With that V6 engine, you got nice, smooth acceleration, doesn't strain the engine. Yeah, hey, 32 miles a gallon on a highway, it's nothing to sneeze at for a car that rides this nice. The brakes work perfectly fine. This is a car you can cruise all day long. You're not going to get a sore neck or a sore back. And here we go. And there comes my wife back from the grocery store for New Year's. She didn't notice it was me because this isn't my car. As we come to our little drag strip, we look back, nobody's coming. So we can come to a complete stop. And then we'll step on the gas. Whoa! The traction control worked. It started to peel out. Then the traction control stopped it from peeling out. That shows you this has a tremendous amount of power. Very smooth. When you want to pass somebody, you step on the gas. You can see the speedometer picks up rather quickly. Does its job. So you can cruise all day in one of these things. You're not going to get sore. They're comfortable. They're quiet. They're really nice cars. And if you get a used one like this, such a low price with low mileage, hey, like I say, snap it up. Even if you're not nuts about the car, you could sell to somebody else and make money. You can't get this V6 engine anymore. Snap them up before they're all gone or all worn out. Really nice cruising sedan. I know people are all into SUVs, but many people do not need an SUV. There's plenty of room in the back of this car. It's got a giant trunk, something this comfortable to drive around. All he's done in the last 35,000 miles is change the oil. That's it. Now we'll do a turn around and head back. We'll see what kind of a turning radius this thing has. I gotta say, hey, turns around pretty smoothly. Nice turning radius. Got the back up, you just twirl around. Corners like a race car. Suspension of these later model ones, this being a 2016, was radically improved over the earlier visions. This thing is just one smooth driving machine. Okay, so there you have it, a 2016 Avalon. Probably the best Avalon ever built as far as I'm concerned, with the V6, very dependable transmission, good gas mileage. Now they stopped making them because everybody wants SUVs. But now Toyota's bringing a Crown, which is basically a Japanese version of this, made in Japan over here, and they're selling it. But all I have to say is, when you look at the price differential between the Camry and the Crown, sometimes it's $15,000, $20,000 more for the Crown. Would I pay that? No, I wouldn't, because I've been in brand new 2025 Camry hybrids, and they were phenomenal. I would not pay another 15 grand just to get Crown on the back and more leather inside. So, you find one of these lying around with low mileage like he did, snap it up. Even if you don't need a car, it'll run a long time. Somebody will want to use it, that's for sure, and it'll last for years and years and years. It doesn't have all that technology that the newer ones have in them. It's got 234,000 miles. He bought it with like 114, put all those other ones on, and it still runs pretty good. Now, here's the reason why the old ones are actually better than the new ones. What does it have? It's got a nice 2.4 liter four-cylinder engine with, as you can see, regular fuel injectors on it. It's not the overly complex gasoline direct injection. It doesn't have a turbocharger. It's got a pretty dependable 5-speed automatic transmission. These things can run forever. Here's the transmission fluid, as a matter of fact, and he said it looked like new anyway. It didn't wear all that much. Now, this isn't the modern one. This is not a 1.5 liter turbocharged direct injected monster that has oil dilution problems. It's a big 2.4 liter 4 with regular injections, and these things can basically run forever if you change the oil regularly in them. As can the 6-speed automatic transmission. He lost his hubcaps a long time ago, but it's still going down the road. Now, the advantage of having these steel wheels are, these are still the original wheels. They can last a long time. The Li rims will chip, bend, break. Steel wheels actually tend to last longer. And if they get dented, you can get a hammer, you can bash them back in place. Try that with an alloy and watch it crack into a million pieces, right? Sometimes old, simple things are better than the new, expensive, fancy ones. AutoZone gonna sell 4 hubcaps cheap enough if you want to. Now, he's had really good luck with it. He uses it to drive it all over. He's using it for Uber. His wife did this. Don't blame him. She ran into something, kind of crunched it up there. You can see. Who cares? Got a couple of screws holding it in. Hey, it's all just plastic anyway. Now, here's the story that goes to this car. He bought it when he was going to college, right? His friend at the same time said, I want a BMW. He warned her. He said, no, you should watch this guy, Scotty. He says, don't buy BMWs. Well, his friend didn't listen to either me or him and bought the BMW, and 15,000 miles later he gets a phone call and the guy says, come pick me up. He tows his BMW to the shop, the engine locked up on it. So, if you don't listen to me, you have the prerogative of doing whatever you want. But if you value your money, you might listen to me. He did, and 120, 30,000 miles later, this thing's still running like a clock down the road. Well, the other one years ago went to the junkyard. That's got a lot of miles on it. So, we'll hook the old computer up, and we will see what kind of shape it's in. As we can see, check it out, 234,578 miles. It's beeping, so it's doing its thing. Do standalone diagnosis of it. Manual seats. Hey, they don't break. So USA Honda Accord 2012. Now it's a little bit older. We can still do a topology scan, so we'll do that. And while it's doing it, The dash is still in good shape. The roof's getting that Arab tent deal here. Ready for a tent out in the desert, but that's what happens to Hondas. A lot of room in the back. Seats are fabric seats. They're still in excellent shape. Very comfortable. Older, it's better. Check it out. A real handbrake. Not this electronic crap. Bells and whistles work. The windows are all up and down. They have made and sold millions and millions of these Accords in Ohio and sold them all to the United States. It is one of the most dependable cars they ever used to make before they started putting smaller engines and turbocharging them. And now it's all done. There's 7 trouble codes, but a lot of them are stuff we don't even care about. The ABS system. They get this old half the time. That stuff doesn't work anymore. We'll see what the code is. Central control unit quits communication above 30 miles an hour. I don't expect this ABS stuff to be working these old things anyways. Speed wheel sensors aren't working. Everything gets old. This thing's been in a wreck. I'm sure the speed sensors have been broken from them wrecking. They didn't fix any of it. We'll erase them, but I'm sure a bunch of them will come back because guess what? The car was wrecked and they didn't fix that part. It still works fine. Just doesn't have ABS. Those ABS codes because the sensors and the wires are broken from the wreck. So it also has SRS, and that's probably related to the other codes because those systems work in tandem. Go from the sensors, yeah, because it was in a wreck in the front and they didn't fix the stuff. We'll erase it, but the codes will keep coming back because when it was wrecked, obviously that stuff was damaged and it wasn't fixed. Being an older car, we got to turn the ignition off, then turn the ignition on. It's kind of a pain to reset it. Last thing is the TPMS, pressure signal failure. Yeah, it's an old car. The sensors are worn out. Who's going to spend money on that? We'll erase it, but of course those will come back too. So now what we really want to look at is the live data on how it's running. Come on, it's cold. The machine doesn't like working when it's cold, but it's going now. We will go to live data, and we'll start her up. Starts right up. Black is good, red is bad. Half sensor data looks good. Through all these data, see if anything is all still black and good. Air fuel ratio is good. Fuel temp's pretty good. I mean, hey, it's only 1.08, 1.0 is perfect, so it's pretty close to perfect. It even shows you the pressure on rocker arm control, all the knock sensor data, that's all good. Now you'll often see this, maximum engine speed, it's 0, right? It can be 5,000 to 60,000. That's just nonsense. These Hondas often read like that for some weird reason. It revs up fine, right? And 0 is ridiculous. It's just a software anomaly with these things. You can see the cylinder misfire 0 across the board. Camshaft sensors working. Go for a spin. It idles nice and smooth. We'll take it out to Tobacco Road. Tire pressure gauging knows the monitor system doesn't work. Doesn't cost much for one of those. Just check it every once in a while. Now with all the mileage this car has on it, I can hear the wheel bearings are a little bit worn. They're not outrageous, and they might go for years before they finally go. But I can hear a little woo woo woo. Of course they're going to be worn. You know, it's pushing 250,000 miles. It still goes good enough, though. Oh, here we go to Tobacco Road. We're going to make a left here, and we're going to our little drag strip. And you can see, like I've been saying, they've knocked all these down, but they haven't built anything because here in Clarksville, they're actually overbuilt, and they have houses they can't sell now. So they knocked down these trees, but you see, they haven't built anything yet. We'll come to a stop and we'll see what's left of this engine. Here we go. It picks up and goes. It's got plenty of pickup. The transmission shifts like a dream still with all those miles. But hey, still runs pretty much like it did when it was brand new. These things were solid made in Ohio. And here we go back. I mean, hey, he wants to know how long this thing will last. Maybe it'll last twice what it's got. Oh, I've seen with 500,000 on him. He's made some money off of this, driving Uber. All he's done is oil changes and stuff. So there you have it. These things can run forever. Yeah, the thing's 13 years old. It's got almost 250,000 miles on it, but it still runs like a top. Now, he admitted he screwed up because his mechanic told him the ball joint was going out, waited to fix it, and the ball joint snapped off, so he had to have a ball joint put on it. So you do one. If a mechanic tells you, hey, your ball joint's going out, change it before it breaks off. It's kind of dangerous. You know, he's lucky nobody was injured. But the car itself, still solid as can be. His $7,000 something investment, 130,000 miles ago, certainly has paid off. He made a fortune driving people in Uber in it. For that little bit of investment, insurance is cheaper on old cars. Hey, you can find one of these Accords before they went to small turbo GDI gasoline engines, just the regular ones, they get decent enough gas mileage, but they can run forever with very little maintenance. Modern ones, not so much. These older ones with a nice 2.4 liter 4-cylinder engine, they can just keep going and going. This one doesn't burn any oil, even though it's got like 250,000 miles. You'll never see that with the new ones, with the 1.5 turbos. If they ever made it to this many miles, I guarantee you they'd all be burning oil. This doesn't even burn oil. Now, to me, it looks to be in excellent shape. I don't see any rust at all, and that kind of makes sense because the guy bought it in Texas. And here we go, Fred Haas Toyota from Houston, where I used to live, and it was made in San Antonio. And as you can tell, it is loaded. All the room, nice leather seats, huge tires, lifted as can be. And unlike my grandson's Tundra, it was lifted correctly. It's not slanted. Now, if you look at one of these, some of them did have that problem with frame rust because they didn't coat them right. But been in Texas most of its life, and the interesting thing was the owner seemed to go between Houston and Brownsville all the time. A lot of the mileage on this thing was highway mileage, which is about 10% to where a stop and go in city mileage. So even though it has a lot of miles, 238,788, I don't think it's going to be all worn out because it was highway mileage. We're going to take it for a road test and we're going to scan it with my machine for sure. Cold day, so we got a stick out because the little hydraulic lifts are kind of worn out. But these 5.7 liter V8s, these things can basically run forever if you take care of them. Which is one of the reasons I don't like the new Tundra with that V6 twin turbo. I don't care what they say, they don't have the pulling power and they don't ride the same as these. Theoretically, they have more horsepower, more torque, but that's twin turbo. It's a different type of power. It doesn't have the grunt this thing has when it takes off. Now sure, it's a gas hog, but it's got a lot of heavy added steel. But even at that, he's only getting 4 miles a gallon worse than that new twin turbo V6. When a guy brought me that, he's only getting 4 miles less than that after all these years and all the technology. So you get a big truck, it's going to use up a lot of gasoline, and let's say he paid $12,500 for this and it still looks beautiful. I just looked up the discounted price locally for a 4-wheel drive brand new Tundra, and it was $68,000, and that doesn't include destination and all that stuff, right? So for what he paid for this, since it's only 4 miles a gallon less gas mileage, he could buy 5 lifetimes worth of gasoline if you think about it that way. Of course, being an 08, it's a lot simpler vehicle. Take off the beauty cover. It is a regular V8 engine. It doesn't have a turbocharger. It doesn't have GDI fuel injection. All these expensive things that run higher pressure that are going to not only wear it out faster but be more expensive to fix when they break. There's a lot to say about older technology when it comes to a long lifespan, and the main reason people buy Toyotas is because of their lifespan. And this one, hey, was in Texas. Check it out. Look at this clean undercarriage. Okay, all you guys up north and on the East Coast, eat your heart out. A guy a couple years ago, I felt sorry for him. He bought me an FJ Cruiser in Rhode Island to check out, and he was so excited that he had gotten this FJ Cruiser for 20-something grand and said, wasn't that a great deal? I really love the truck. And outside it looked beautiful. But once I crawled under it, it was a rust bucket. The frame was rusting. The undercarriage was rusting. The control arms were rusting. Everything was rusting out like no tomorrow. And I really felt sorry for the guy. In this case, he was in Texas. Truck was in Texas. He didn't have to worry about it. It's clean as a whistle. That's why people want to buy cars from Texas, Arizona, New Mexico. If they are in a nice, non-salted atmosphere, they're gonna be great. Now, there's one thing you got to worry about though, and that's the history of the car. Because my sister-in-law had a Ford Pinto in Buffalo, New York, and she moved to Houston. Well, it started to rust in Buffalo, right? But when she came to Houston, if you know anything about Houston, it is humid as can be, right? So the humidity actually rotted it out even worse. And one day she opened the door on the Pinto and it fell off. So she picked it up and put it back in place and drove it from the passenger side, climbed in, and then gave it to somebody later to drive around as a knockaround car. So you always want to check the whole history of the car and look at the undercarriage anyway. Even if it says Texas, hey, they might have moved there from Buffalo like my sister-in-law did, and then wham, you end up with a pile of junk. In this case, it was made in San Antonio, sold in Houston, Texas, and it's obviously spent its entire life in the state of Texas. Now we're going to get my fancy scan tool, and you can see, yeah, the leather's ripped and cracked here. You can get it reupholster, seat covers, or whatever you want. It does have a lot of miles on it, and that shows that it does have a lot of miles because of this wear, right? Now, I really wouldn't worry about the odometer being set back because it says it has 230-something thousand miles, right? Nobody in their right mind would set it back to that high of a figure. They'd put it lower, right? But that seat is a really good example of, let's say, somebody's trying to sell one of these and said it's only got 50,000 miles. Well, if that seat's all worn out like that, believe me, it's got a lot more than 50,000 miles on it, right? It's a good way that you can check it out. You can see it's from Texas. There's the hat. Here you go, it's already detected the vehicle, standalone diagnosis, and we're going to do a full scan of this thing, topology of all the different systems, and while it's doing it, we'll look. Got a nice electronic four-wheel drive system you can turn on or off. Someone's put a Kenwood because they wanted to modernize it. Yeah, there's a little tear here, but hey, big old space, comfy seats, lots of room in the back, lots of storage here. Sunglassorama, I guess you can have a lot of sunglasses here. Well, it's a Texas truck after all. I got two trouble codes. I don't think there's much. TPMS, you never expect those things to work with all these fancy tires. Code is, here it comes popping up, data from transmitter 3 not received. So one of the transmitters is dead inside the tire stem. Like I say, bring tire pressure gauges. When you got a vehicle like this, you don't want to buy all that fancy stuff. Who cares? You can if you want. You'll end up replacing all four, spending a lot of money. So we will go back to the other data, which is the AC. And we'll see what trouble code's there. Here, outlet damper control servo motor. So one of the servo motors is probably bad inside the dash. The heat in the AC blows good enough, so we'll just erase that code. We really don't care. So let's start her up. Typical Toyota, starts right up, and we're gonna do live data. Remember, black's good, red's bad. We'll see what kind of shape this baby's in. Now he's complaining about gas module, and you can see the mass airflow sensor is 7.5. Okay, that's a little high because this is a 5.7 liter, so it should be closer to 5.7 grams per second. And as you can see, at 7.68, 7.5, that's a little high. Now you could try cleaning them, that might help a little, or just replacing the mass airflow sensor. It just bolts on and off. It's a very easy thing. It would probably improve his gas mods a little bit. This is a gas hog, there's no arguing that, but they can help it as much as possible. Now you see the air fuel ratio sensors, they're working good. 0 is perfect, and look, 0.05, 0.06, 0.04. That's pretty low. It's not doing much changing. It's only subtracting a little, so it's running just slightly rich from that part of the system. But that's just reporting it. The sensors themselves are working okay. It's just giving a report that is running slightly rich. Front one 292, back one 167. That's all working fine. And that's the thing about Toyota catalytic converter systems. They generally last forever like they're supposed to. Theoretically, none of them should wear out because they don't burn the catalysts. They should last forever, but they're not made right. Engines burn oil, yada, yada, yada. But in this case, they're still working perfectly fine. Both of them. It's completed and there's no misfires. Variable valve timing system's working fine. The port injector is working perfectly fine. 2.3 milliseconds at idle. Look at the engine speed. All cylinders are exactly the same, running perfectly. Like I say, misfire count, they're all going to be zeros. It's a Toyota, they're all zeros. Hey, look, it might be an old truck, but it's got a little tiny backup camera. I gotta say, not the greatest view on earth, but hey, it's looking backwards. Now you're way up in the air. Power door locks still work, and the exhaust system isn't stock by any stretch of the imagination, because I can hear it. It was all rotten when he bought it, so he put on a full flow one. You don't want to go too fast in a lifted truck, but hey, I feel totally secure driving this thing around. We'll take it to our little drag strip. I'm listening. I don't hear wheel bearings. Like any lifted truck, I hear rattles and creaks here and there. I mean, and he's got a lot of junk in the truck too, but It seems extremely solid. So here we go up our little drag strip hill. I gotta say, I like his exhaust system. It's got a nice sound to it. It's a lot nicer than the super quiet stock one. And I see there's nobody behind us, so here we go to our little drag strip. And let's gas it and see what happens. Whoa! Hey, it may have 238,000 miles on it, but it still burns rubber. That's what I don't like about the new ones. The twin turbo V6s have more horsepower, but only at high RPMs. And so if you're towing or pulling off, they don't have the power. Okay, we're going 45, we'll step on it. Here we go! Whee! Oh, I like that sound. So, here we have a beautiful truck. You got it for $12,500. And yeah, it's got mileage on it, but it's a Toyota. And as I say about many things, they don't make them like they used to, especially when they swapped it for a V6 twin turbo. This engine can go a long time. I've seen them go 500,000 miles, right? The tranny still shifts like a dream. The brakes work, especially since it was made in San Antonio, sold in Houston, spent its life in Texas, has no rust on it whatsoever. This is a keeper truck. If the engine finally wore out, I would personally put another engine in it. Now, I've never seen a transmission in one of these wear out. You can replace them, but I've never seen one wear out. I've seen the engines finally wear out 400,000 or 500,000 miles, but you could even replace it then. And for $6,000 to $8,000, hey, considering the new one's going to cost you 70 grand or more, why not just keep fixing an old one as long as you live where they don't rot away. They don't rot away in Texas. They don't rot away here in Tennessee. If you really want to get a good truck, maybe take a trip down to Houston and buy one. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.